with Sifu Nick Hoyt, who's going to be helping me with judo techniques today. A few words about safety. These techniques are not meant for sport. They're not meant for sparring or randori. In fact, they're illegal in randori and not allowed in typical judo shiai. The idea is we want to learn how to use what we already know in an application that's for self-defense. So where there are no rules, there may be a bigger, stronger, faster attacker. There may be more than one, and we need to get in and get the opponent taken care of. If we put locks on, we want to release the locks before we throw, just because it's a safety issue. If you're throwing somebody while their leg is locked, while their arm is locked, if the ukemi is not there, then somebody can get seriously hurt, and that's not the goal. The goal is to practice to keep you safe, not to injure yourself or your training partner. Prior to 1964, when judo was included in the Olympics, judo was taught to the service members to defend themselves in World War II, against the Japanese, in the Korean War, and so on. After its inclusion in the Olympics, several key components of judo have been forgotten, omitted, and just flat out neglected. Those would be ukewaza, often translated as blocking, but that has more to do with how you're receiving your opponent's energy than it does with physically blocking, like we typically see, or how it's commonly referred to. The striking techniques, or atemiwaza of judo, again, except for a few kata, they pretty much don't exist. So we're going to be looking at ways of using the traditional striking methods of judo that are hidden within the techniques of sport, but are seldom, if ever, taught in that concept. Also using locks, so standing locks of both the legs, the arms, other parts of the body, to be able to affect a throw. So obviously going in and trying to grab a hold of somebody in a sporting method is not going to yield terrific results if we haven't done something to take their attention off of attacking us. So if we can't manage the attacks coming in, if we can't strike, if we can't do things to take their balance, then the judo throw is pretty much not going to happen. This also leads into the discussion of kumikata, or gripping methods. If I am trying to do sport methods of gripping to my opponent, there's nothing that's going to stop him from trying to counter me. And again, whoever gets the dirtiest trick in first is probably going to get the next. So just because you're playing nice and by competition rules on the street, whoever gets that first one's going to get the next technique, which is probably going to favor him. In studying judo for Goshin Jutsu, or for self-defense, there's a few things we need to be mindful of. One of them is ranges. So typically, a judo in shiai or randori is going to start from an initial position of kumikata, grip fighting, and then some sort of clinching or gripping methods. In self-defense, we'll cover these things in future videos about how to negotiate the space from where the opponent is safely away from us, where he can't strike us, to where the strikes are coming in, and how to manage those strikes and lead us into proper gripping methods where we don't have to rely on the clothing, but can still afford us either locks, breaks, kazushi to off balance and set up our throws, or even just simple controlling methods. So the tactics are going to change a little bit in self-defense application as opposed to sport. When we're looking at techniques, our friends in karate have different methods of doing things. So one of the approaches to find underlying methods which are hidden in plain sight are to view things as many different applications. For example, it's a common phrase that a block is a lock, is a strike, is a throw, is a choke. We're going to start to examine judo techniques that are taught in a sport manner and reveal some of the possibilities to use these as a more aggressive method of self-defense. So getting away from the sports side and getting more towards the application side of self-defense, or jisenwaza. The first video in this series, we're going to look at Osoto Gari, which is a very common competition technique, as well as a very effective technique for self-defense situations. To begin to introduce these to people who have more of a sporting background, we're just going to start from a very basic grip and focus on our attention on what the leg is doing differently. In future videos, we'll get into how to manage incoming strikes, how to take more effective gripping strategies, and then putting it all together. But for right now, just to see how the leg can behave differently in self-defense, we'll start with a typical grab where we have a grip at the wrist and just one around the neck. So like you might normally do in a sport or a no-gi situation. The first one is going to be Osoto Gari. So it's one of the kicking techniques of judo. It's basically just a knee strike. If we look at how we typically are trying to feed Osoto Gari, I want to get that leg forward as I step. My knee has to draw sharply past that leg anyway. If I change the trajectory and catch him right in the middle of the thigh, that's going to start to hyperextend the knee as well as take his balance. So what does this do? Instead of following all the way through for the throw, if I can start here, take the knee out, and then that's going to bring him into other positions to where I can modify other things. So I can either continue with striking, I can start to change positions on the arms to affect locks. It can lead me into other throws. This may be a situation where if I come in and I just blow the knee out, it's going to take him possibly down or move the leg back further, which is going to change his position. So typically we go outside, barely grazing to be able to get our placement for Osoto Gari. In the Osoto Gari variation, we're just coming straight in and taking the knee strike shot straight above his patella. So I don't want to go kneecap to kneecap. I want to go up just a few inches towards the middle of his quadricep. And again, even if this doesn't work, which nothing will work exactly how you practice it, I can graze and go to the inside, and this is going to lead me into kata ashidori or other techniques where I can start picking the leg, kabisu geishi. This can also lead into, if I come to the outside, where I can change my trajectory and start doing an otoshi variation, where I'm just dropping the heel as I drive that right arm forward for the throw. In the next variation of this, we're looking at Osoto Gari. So Osoto Gari is a heel kick. Oftentimes I can think about stomping, which is more of a fumikomi, or I can think about pulling the heel back, and that would be also a Osoto Gari. If I get past the leg, again, and instead of cutting through the leg to the inside like I would traditionally in Osoto Gari, if I take the heel and just take it sharply to where the base of the gastroc is, that can start to buckle the leg. So again, using that combined with my right hand where it is, whether it's on his shoulder, on his head, when I collapse the leg, and again, practice this slowly and safely, he should feel that being tender. So I'm just pushing and he can feel where that is. If I came through and just snap that back and combine that movement with a strong pushing, like we would anyway, that would start to give us a better technique for a throw. And again, start with destroying the leg. The next variation is an otoshi. So it's Osoto Otoshi. The difference is, instead of taking a cutting action with the leg, drawing the leg up very high, what I'm going to do is just sneak through and plant the ball of my foot. I should make contact. So sometimes in some variations they slide down the leg. I prefer to draw and find the leg. And you can see his kazushi has already started. The heel has come up. So I slide back till I meet the leg. My heel is up, and then I sharply drop my heel to the ground, removing his leg. And again, this puts me in a good follow-up. So this is right here, another Osoto Gari, a Mai Gari, what have you. I hope that you found something of value in these videos and these concepts, and that it leads you to further study in your own system. If you're interested in learning more and you're a judoka or you have more of a traditional line of study, then please contact me at Kerner Warrior Arts with the link listed on the screen. If you're not familiar with judo, or you just want pieces of that system, how to integrate it into what you already do, then you can contact me at azcqc.com, which is also on the screen. Thank you, and we'll be back soon.